In the fall of 1982, there was only two things on the mind of kids at Genesco Academy: getting the hard-to-find Yoda action figure and winning the big game with rival football team, the Cross Keys Vikings. Most of the kids were focusing on the second of the two, but for two fifth graders, Darren and lifelong buddy Boyd found that Yoda was the most important thing in their life, next to watching the latest episode of the A-Team. Darren and Boyd had a long friendship that was made mostly out of convenience. The two lived across the street from each other. When the two just happened to go to the same private school, their friendship bonded. Although the two boys were slightly different, one enjoyed fishing with his father, Sunday school with his church mate, the other liked to jump hills on his BMX bicycle while rewriting the latest episode of Dukes of Hazzard in his blue Mead notebook. But even if they had different tastes, they also had a lot in common. Looking for the gold bars on Pitfall, playing with their Star Wars figures in the backyard, and talking about the prettiest girl that ever graced the fifth grade, Amy Covey. Amy often wore her long hair in braided ponytails, and she was unlike the other girls at the private school. While most of them, even at the age of 10, knew they were the prettiest girls in the fifth grade and came from a family with more money than most of the state, Amy was different. Sure, she came from money. Sure, she cheered on the junior football team on Friday nights, and sure, at times she would gossip too much with her friends, but she never took for granted the privilege she had had. She didn't look down on others, or act like she was better than them. She would often eat lunch with the other pretty rich girls at the pink round table by the stage in the lunchroom, but at other times she would also sit with the music geeks on the wooden bench on the far side of that same lunchroom. Darren had been in love with Amy since the first time he saw her getting on the school bus at the corner of Hyde Park and Cumberland at 6:41 a.m. September 14, 1980. Boyd, on the other hand, had already pledged to himself his undying love to sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Kelly. Even if he found Amy nice and pretty, he was more willing to help out Darren capture her heart, and they both knew a way to do that. Get her something she would love so much she would think of him every time she saw it. One thing Amy had fallen in love with when she first saw it was the Green Master of the Force, Yoda. She loved him more than she loved her unicorn trapper keeper. She had a Yoda shirt she would wear often on dress down day. She had Yoda pajamas she would wear on pajama day. She had a Yoda eraser that never got used but stood proudly on top of her number 2 pencil. She loved Yoda as much as any 10-year-old girl can love anything. The best way to Amy's heart was with the little green guy. Although Amy had Yoda shirts, Yoda pajamas, Yoda erasers, and there was even a rumor that she had Yoda underoos, there was one thing she didn't have: the 1981 Kenner Yoda action figure. She was not really the type of girl to go out and hunt for it, and she had no brother to steal it from. Also, in 1982, Yoda wasn't an easy figure to walk into a store to find. Even if the figure had been out for a year, it was still one wanted by even the casual Star Wars fan. Although Darren had found his at a Kmart the day it was placed on the peg, Boyd had yet to find his. The two had been working together to find the Yoda for Boyd's weak collection of Star Wars action figures. However, that was put on hold, as October 11th was coming. The day would be the social event of the school year, Amy's 11th birthday party. Due to new school rules that said if one kid in the class was invited to a party, all kids had to be, Darren and Boyd got their invitation to the party. They both knew that this was the chance. If Darren would be able to gift Amy the Yoda action figure, every time she saw Yoda, even thought of Yoda, she would think of him. It would tell Amy that he knew her a lot better, more than any of the other boys. So the plan to find Yoda before October 11th began. It was not an easy task. With only one store in bike pedaling range, the kids had to rely on their parents for a trip through the local Zayres or Kmart, something no parent would do daily, maybe not even weekly. But every time one parent went out, one of the kids would tag along, in hopes of stopping at a store that sold toys. Days went to weeks, going in and out of department stores, checking local mom and pop shops, walking from one end to the other over and over again at the mall. Finally, only a few days before the party, Boyd, while out shopping for new Sunday day shoes with his mother, found Yoda on the rack, right in the front. They had it. Both were shocked. The plan was working. Darren hurried to wrap it up and wait for the day of the party. It seemed like it took weeks after finding Yoda to get to the day of the party, but it was really only a 2-day wait. October 11th, 7 p.m. Eastern, the day of the party. Darren and Boyd arrived at the party together, finding most of the kids from class and some other strange kids they'd never seen before already there. Darren placed the wrapped up Yoda on the kitchen table next to a short-tailed birthday cake and the other pile of presents, and hurried to the back patio to watch the busting of a piano. Everything seemed to be going as planned. They each mingled with the guests, talked with other friends, and waited. After blowing out 11 candles, it was time to open the gifts. As Amy's mother brought them out, Darren knew his Yoda was closer to the bottom of the pile than the top. Amy thanked everyone and then started to rip open the gifts. There were the typical girl gifts: Barbies, Smurfette, maybe a Rainbow Bright, and a few glamour gals. As the pile got lower and lower, Darren's gift got closer to the next, until finally it was in her hands. She looked at the Star Wars gift wrapping paper. "I know who got that one, Darren," said Jenny Green, the spoiled princess of the 5th grade. The other kids giggled as Amy ripped the gift wrapping, seeing inside the Yoda action figure. She removed it, looked at it, and then as the confused look faded away from her young face, she set it down and reached for the next gift. The next one was wrapped in paper based on The Last Unicorn. "Oh, I hate to open this. I love The Last Unicorn so much, I don't want to rip the paper," Amy said as the memory of the Yoda action figure faded quicker than a Mac and Me fan at McDonald's. As the gifts were all open, Darren still held out hope. Maybe after the party, once she was alone, she would let her true feelings out about the gift. After all, you don't want your girlfriends to know you were excited about a Yoda action figure. At least that's what Darren hoped. As the party went back to the action and the kids started to play, Boyd tapped on Darren's shoulder and pointed across the backyard. A group of girls, about 4 or 5 of them, had gathered at the gate. Darren couldn't see what it was. Then, as the girls parted some, it was clear. It was what every girl from the 1st grade to the 5th grade wanted to see at her birthday party. 6th grader John Gorman. There he was with his perfect winged sandy blonde hair, his fancy green Aslan shirt with the collar up, sitting on top of his max-wheeled Huffy bicycle. He was every little girl's dream. Hell, even some of the teachers probably had improper thoughts of this kid. He made Ricky Schroeder look like Dom DeLuise. And not only was he perfect looking, he was perfect at everything. What couldn't this kid do? He already had a Little League home run trophy in the school's trophy case, the only Little League trophy ever to get that accomplishment. At home, he had even more trophies lining his wall. There was the Junior Football Quarterback of the Year, the 2-time tennis server winner. Hell, someone said he even had a trophy at French kissing. This kid was everything every other boy wasn't. Amy might have loved The Last Unicorn, and at one time she might have loved Yoda, but she loved, like every other girl, John Gorman. It could make a young boy sick how the girls all loved him, but they could also understand why. What wasn't to love about this guy? He was perfect at everything. But here was John at the party. Wasn't dropped off by his parents. He came there, alone, on his bike. And Darren, like Boyd, knew once John was there, to the girls, to Amy, no other boy was there. One of John's greatest gifts was making boys disappear, and all he had to do was enter the room. As the crowd of boys and girls listened to John's latest tale of being a hero, Darren and Boyd drifted inside. With a little in common of the elementary school Terry Fox, the two were welcomed into the living room to enjoy a fun, quiet game of Yard's Revenge. When out of the blue, they both heard the voice of Amy. "Thanks for the Yoda, Boyd. That was cute." Before she could be corrected, Boyd replied with a happy thank you. As Boyd would later recall, the thank you just slipped out. It seems like the latest plan for Darren to win over his love was foiled yet again. The two boys continued playing the video game, and all seemed back to normal. That was until they heard laughing and even cheering coming from the front of the house. Not in the back where the party had been. The boys hurried to the front of the door to see what was going on. They walked outside. Not much of a shock, they found the party goers had moved to the front of the house and had made a ramp out of plywood and 2 cinder blocks. In front of the ramp, about 20 feet away, sat John on his bike. One of the partygoers could be heard yelling, "Do it again, John, faster." John had showed off many times on the sports field, but here he was now showing off in the streets. He put both hands on the metal handlebars, looked over at Amy. "This one's for your birthday," he told her, and pushed down on the pedal. Although Boyd and Darren would have rather been back in that Yard's Revenge spaceship, they also couldn't help but want to see the 12-year-old Evel Knievel make his 3-foot jump. As John's little legs pushed each pedal faster to pick up speed, the two noticed something on John's bike. A nylon string had been tied to the back of the seat. It hung down, past the back tire, and at the end of the string, bouncing up and down on the hot Georgia asphalt, was a Kenner 1981 Yoda action figure, being dragged toward a makeshift ramp. It was just too much for the two to witness. Even if they wanted to see the jump of the year, Darren and Boyd both turned around and headed back inside. The cheers and screams of "do it again" was enough to know how successful the jump had been. John had made it, but sadly the same thing couldn't have been said for Yoda, as plastic dragging across asphalt has some unforgivable results. Like any party, it finally came to an end and the two returned home. The party, the 1981 Kenner Yoda action figure, and the jump was never talked about again, at least by Boyd and Darren. As life returned to normal, each started up a new plan to win the attention of their true loves. Over the next few years, the two would slowly drift apart. The private school would close its doors a year later due to lack of funding, and Darren and Boyd's friendship would drift apart as they grew older, attended a different school, and had their own new friends. Amy never knew the impact she had on them, and she would fade out of their lives forever, but never out of their minds. As for John, well, he kept winning at life, and now watches his son win trophies on the college football field. Boyd seemed to be one of those kids that just disappeared. Rumors of him in college, or moving out of state, were heard, but no one was ever really sure what happened to him. As for Darren, well, life went on, and he would use his memories of Amy and that Kenner Yoda action figure for a video on his growing YouTube channel. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.
Junkman.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.